Welcome back. You're watching TT India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. The United States on Wednesday laid out an energy deal with Venezuela, saying it will partially roll back sanctions to allow the sale of oil products from the country. Now, the details shared in a Department of Energy fact sheet came days after Washington captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, leaving his deputy and other allies in charge. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said that the energy deal will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. She also said that the United States is selectively rolling back sanctions on Venezuela.
This was a deal made by the president and his team with the Venezuelan interim authorities. This will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. And Secretary Wright and the Department of Energy are working with the interim authorities and also with the private oil industry to execute on this historic energy deal. That's not only good for the United States, but it's also going to revive the prosperity, the safety, the security of both the United States and Venezuela as well. The U.S. is selectively rolling back sanctions to enable the transport and the sale of Venezuelan crude and oil products to the global market. I will reiterate what the president has said a few times now to all of you, which is that it's too premature and too early to dictate a timetable for elections in Venezuela right now.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has since announced that the interim leaders have agreed to U.S.-managed marketing of 30 to 50 million barrels of crude, repeatedly adding that his country will run Venezuela despite having no forces on the ground. Trump also said on social media on Wednesday that Venezuela will be buying only U.S.-made products with the money they receive from our new oil deal, including potential purchases of agricultural goods, medicine and energy equipment. Meanwhile, Venezuela's state petroleum firm separately said that talks for the sale of crude oil to the United States had begun after Washington's demand for access to the country's reserves following Maduro's ouster. Also, the United States seized two sanctioned tankers today, including a Russian-flagged oil tanker that was in the Atlantic. The second tanker was in international waters in the Caribbean. Now, Marinera, formerly known as the Bella 1, was empty of oil, but the U.S. says it and the M. Sophia belonged to a shadow fleet of tankers used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth wrote on X, the blockade of sanctioned and illicit Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world. Well, the U.S. is escalating its blockade of vessels that are under sanctions and going to and from Venezuela. The White House also said it plans to roll back some of the sanctions Trump placed on Venezuelan oil in 2019 during his first term. Also, Moscow has denounced the seizure of the tanker sailing under its flag and demanded that the U.S. treat Russians aboard properly and permit them to return to Russia quickly. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump and Colombian President Gustavo Petro held a phone call on Wednesday afternoon where they discussed relations between the two countries. Trump abruptly changed his tone on Wednesday about his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro, saying they had exchanged a friendly phone call and he'd even invited the leader of the South American country to the White House. Trump said arrangements are being made for a meeting in Washington between himself and Petro, though he did not indicate when the meeting may take place. This is the first phone call between the two presidents since Trump said on Sunday that a U.S. military operation focused on Colombia's government sounds good to him. And U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated in recent days that he wants to gain control of Greenland. He argued that Washington must control the world's largest island to safeguard U.S. security amid growing Chinese and Russian activity in the Arctic, and claims Denmark has not done enough to protect it. And now U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio would be meeting with Denmark next week. The world's largest island, but with a population of just 57,000 people, Greenland is not an independent member of NATO, but is covered by Denmark's membership of the Western Alliance.
Denmark. Why has the administration not taken Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
Oh, I'll be meeting with them next week.
But will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then.
While tensions have intensified since the White House said that the use of the U.S. military is always an option, it said the potential U.S. purchase of Greenland is being actively discussed by President Donald Trump and his national security team.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like.